Happy Thanksgiving from Come Sit at My Table. We're Tom and Melissa, and we're thrilled that you're here for our video today. We are going to make a delicious homemade side dish that is perfect for Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, or really any day of the year. Today we're going to make homemade macaroni and cheese. Now, who doesn't love mac and cheese? A 2-year-old loves mac and cheese, and a 102-year-old still loves mac and cheese. This is a dish that satisfies everyone. Now, there are lots of ways to make homemade mac and cheese. There are some that are as simple as boil the macaroni, stir some cheese into it, put it in the oven, and let it bake. And those are good. There's also, on the other extreme, the other end of the spectrum, where you have to make a roux and you put the roux into boiling milk and you thicken that, and then you add cheeses a little bit at a time and melt the cheese in your sauce. It's almost like making a cheese gravy, and those are delicious too. But they're a lot of work. This recipe is kind of in the middle, in that you've got your milk and butter and cheeses, but you really don't have to melt all of that on the stove to make a sauce before you put it in your pan and bake it. So let's talk about what we're going to need to make our homemade macaroni and cheese. Of course, we have to start with the star of the show, and that's our macaroni. You can use any pasta pretty much that you want to use for macaroni and cheese, but I love large elbow macaroni. Elbow macaroni is fine, just regular elbow macaroni, but the large elbow macaroni has bigger hole in the middle and more of that cheese sauce can just kind of soak in there. So it's my favorite, but you can use anything. You can use the spiral noodles, or just about anything you want to will work with macaroni and cheese. But this is what I prefer. So you're going to need a 16-ounce box or package that's 1 pound of some sort of pasta, preferably elbow. You're also going to need 1 teaspoon of salt, and that's to salt our water when we get ready to boil the macaroni. I've always heard from people of Italian descent that your water, when you boil pasta, should be as salty as the ocean. Well, we're not going to make it quite that salty. We're only going to put a teaspoon in. That kind of helps hold that sodium level down. But you really do have to have some salt in that water. Otherwise, your pasta is just really bland. So we're going to use 1 teaspoon. If you want to go heavier than that with the salt, you do what you feel is right for your dish. The next thing we're going to need is Fiesta blend cheese. Now, normally I would like grating my own cheese. I think it's best to grate it, but this works really well. Fiesta blend cheese has 4 different cheeses in it. So you're getting a wide variety of cheese taste if you use a Fiesta blend. You'll notice that this is 4 cups. It's a 1 pound package. And we're going to use all of this package in our bowl to stir our macaroni into. We do have a second package because we're going to take about 1.5 cups to 2 cups and just sprinkle on top of it before we bake it. That way there's a nice cheesy layer on top. So you're going to need about 1.5 pounds total. The next thing we're going to use is Velveeta. And I can already hear somebody groaning. I'm going to have somebody say, Velveeta is not even real cheese. Well, it is a cheese product, and it makes your macaroni and cheese very smooth and velvety. And honestly, it's just one of the best cheeses to use for macaroni and cheese. It might not be the healthiest cheese, but we're not having this every day of the year. So just relax a little and put about 1.5 pounds of Velveeta. One of these small boxes is 1 pound. So you can see that I have cubed up 1 box of it and about half of the other one. I haven't cubed up the whole thing because we're only using 1.5 pounds. Now, we're about to find out if you trust me, because this macaroni and cheese recipe uses cottage cheese. I know it's a really unusual ingredient, isn't it? Most people, when they hear cottage cheese in macaroni and cheese, are like, are you crazy? But I promise you, it works. Trust me on this one. It really is good. That cottage cheese is just going to kind of melt and become creamy, and oh, it's so good. So trust me on this one.
How much?
This is a 24-ounce box, and we're using it all. We're using all of it. Don't skimp on that. Now, we're going to also use 1 cup of milk and 1 cup half and half. I'm using whole milk. It's just better. It's going to be thicker and creamier. So 1 cup of milk, 1 cup half and half, and I've put those together in a 2-cup measure. So 2 cups total of milk and half. Then we're also going to use 1 stick of melted butter, and I did just melt that in the microwave. We're also going to use, and this sounds like a really, really small amount, and you may say, well, how can that even make a difference? But it does. We're going to use 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Now, I have white pepper just because we're making a cheese sauce, and white pepper doesn't show up in it as much. It didn't show up as the little black speck, so I like it. But black pepper works perfectly. I've always made my macaroni and cheese with black pepper until recently when I thought, why wouldn't I use white pepper? So either one works. And then we're going to use 1/4 teaspoon of paprika. And that's just going to give it a little bit of a smoky flavor. It's not enough to really change the flavor of the mac and cheese. It just gives it a little bit of that paprika smoky flavor. All right, we have to start by getting our pasta in. So let's move over. We're going to turn our heat up so that our pasta water is boiling, and I'm putting in our 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to stir that for a second just to make sure that salt is dissolved in there. And then we're going to add our large elbow macaroni. Now, you don't want this macaroni completely cooked. You don't want it to be soft and mushy because we're going to bake this for 40-45 minutes. So you just want to cook it to the al dente stage. On this box, it says that the al dente stage is 6 minutes. So we're going to boil this for just 6 minutes. So in it goes. I'm going to let it come back to a boil. I am going to stir it just to make sure nothing sticks to the bottom. And if I can remember while I'm doing this, I'll come back and stir it every couple of minutes just to make sure nothing is sticking. I could feel one right there that had already stuck to the bottom. So we'll just let that come back to a boil. It's actually already kind of starting. So I'm going to start my timer for 6 minutes. While that's boiling, we've got to get the rest of this in our pan. Get rid of this lid. Okay, we're going to take 4 cups of our cheese, our Fiesta blend cheese, and we're going to put it in, yeah, wouldn't you know, there we go, and put it in our bowl. I hope this bowl is big enough for all this. I need a bigger bowl. Then we're going to add our cubed up Velveeta. There's one of them. There's the other half. Just going to put that in. We'll save that other half to use in something else. Now we're going to add our cottage cheese. Guys, I know this is just a really unusual ingredient in macaroni and cheese, but it's cheese, so it works. I promise you it does. We're about to find out which subscribers trust me. We'll see who says, yeah, I made it. It was delicious.
I expect we'll lose a few right here.
Oh, please don't leave us. Trust me on this. Okay, now I'm going to save my milk because I really did set it out and try to let it come to room temperature because we don't want to put cold milk in there, but it's not quite to room temperature. So I'm just going to leave it out. So in goes our melted butter.
You're going to leave it out until when?
Until I get that hot macaroni in there.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for helping me finish that sentence.
Okay. Sounded like you weren't going to put it in at all.
No, I'm putting it in. I'm just waiting until the hot macaroni goes in. All right, so that's in. And I'm going to put in the pepper and the paprika. So here we go. And I really am going to put just a quarter of a teaspoon. We don't want it to be hot or peppery. We don't want people to taste it and say, whoo, somebody lost a pepper shaker in that. So we really are, ooh, and that is strong pepper. We really are just putting a quarter of a teaspoon of each of these. Okay, so there we go. Now, I am going to go ahead and stir this up just a little bit. And we're going to wait for that macaroni to boil 6 minutes. We will drain it, and then we will put it in here with this cheese and let it, well, it won't melt everything, but hopefully it will start to melt it. And then we will add our milk and let it get really creamy. All right, now, there's no reason for us to stay around for 3 more minutes waiting for that macaroni to boil. So when it's finished, we'll come back, let you help us drain it, get it in with our cheese, and finish the recipe. We'll be right back. All right, our macaroni is ready. I just ate one to make sure, and it is al dente. So I'm going to turn it off. I need something to hold that with. I guess I thought my hands were tougher than they really are. Okay, and we're going to just drain this. We need all of that water out of that macaroni, because if you have any water still in there, it's going to make your cheese sauce really watery. And as you can tell, this macaroni has a big hole in the middle, so it will hold the water. So we just need to kind of toss it a little bit, make sure that it's gotten all that water out of there. Okay, I think we're ready to go in. So in we go, right in on top of our cheese. And we're going to just kind of stir that up a little bit. Let that start to soften that cheese up a little bit. I know this looks really thick, and it is. It is going to get creamy. And I will tell you that cheeses react differently. So after you get the milk in there, if it's not as creamy as you like, then put some more milk in it. It's okay to add some more, or put some half and half. I'd probably put extra half and half. You can see that that cheese is already starting to melt. It's already starting to soften up. I wish I had heated this milk in the microwave. I think I'm going to do that. Hang on a minute. I did heat my milk in the microwave just for about 1.5 minutes, just so it wasn't cold. I just didn't want it to be cold. And now I'm going to pour it in. It's not boiling or anything, it's just warmed. And we will stir that in. This should just kind of get a little creamy. You don't want it to be like macaroni soup, but you do want it to be creamy. And if I feel like I need it, I will add a little more half and half or a little more milk. Okay.
This looks really nice.
It really does, doesn't it? Yeah. It's about right. You just never know, because your macaroni can soak up more, sometimes less other times. Your cheese can be a little creamier sometimes. Now, I know what you're saying, but that's not all melted and combined. It will in the oven. When it gets in there, it's all going to melt. It'll combine. It'll soak into those elbow macaronis. So we're going into our sprayed pan. See if I can keep from splashing this all over me. Okay, there we go. Now, we need to scrape all that goodness out of there. And I am going to just kind of level this out because we want that macaroni down in that cheese sauce and butter and milk. So let me grab this little spatula. We'll just scrape this out. Get as much of that out of there as we can. Just because we want all that liquid to soak into our macaroni. We want it nice and wet. I've got a piece of cheese right there. So I'm going to get that out of my spoon and off the back. All right. And now I'm just going to kind of smooth that out. You can see that it's just kind of, it's not floating in liquid, but it's got liquid all the way up to the top. And as that cheese melts, it's going to have even more. Now we're going to take about a cup. And I really do not like to put a huge layer of cheese on top. I don't want it to be so covered in cheese that you can't tell it's macaroni and cheese. So I just put kind of a light sprinkling all over it. I don't completely cover it at all, but you do want some cheese melted on top just so it looks nice and cheesy. All right, maybe just a little right there and right down this side. Okay. All right. Now, we have our oven preheated to 375 degrees. And we're going in for just 40 minutes, then I'll check it. If it needs it, we'll stay an extra 5 minutes. You just want that cheese melted really well on top and maybe a little bit of it starting to brown. So when it's finished, we will come back and let you see the end product. In we go. Our macaroni and cheese baked for exactly 40 minutes and it's plenty done. And let me tell you, it looks delicious.
It smells good too.
Yeah, it really does. I'm ready to dig into it. This is just a delicious side dish for any day, really, but especially for a holiday. So, let's have a little bite. The cheese on top is just perfect. It's not too much. Oh, look at that. Look how creamy that is.
That looks delicious.
Look at
It's
that.
really hard to beat macaroni and cheese. Just, it's a great comfort food. And,
It's a perfect comfort
oh
food.
my gosh, that's delicious.
I'm just going to tell you right now, that's not enough for me. Look at this, Melissa. Look how creamy that is. Look at that. Doesn't that look good?
Oh yeah.
Mm.
All right, now for your favorite part.
Sorry. It's going to be hot.
Yes, it is.
I did take it out a few minutes ago, but whew, it's still hot. Look how creamy that is. Look how cheesy. Look at this. Ooh, buddy. I better do a smaller bite because that is going to be hot. I know. I
A small bite.
I have a hard time doing small bites.
You can have another bite too.
You can count on it. I'm having a plate of this. I mean, really, what's wrong with making a whole meal of mac and cheese?
I've done that before. Back in my
I
poor
know.
college days, it wasn't nearly as good as this is going to be, but that's when I got the cheap boxes and made it.
You ready?
I'm going to wait.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm afraid I'll burn my tongue.
No, it's not that hot.
Okay, then give me a bite.
Let me blow on it. Isn't that delicious?
It really is.
I will tell you, this mac and cheese freezes perfectly. So if you make a big pan of it and you don't eat it all, just cut it, scoop it, spoon it into freezer safe bowls, individual bowls, whatever size you want to freeze it in, and just freeze it. And when you take it out and thaw it, you can just stick it in the microwave for a few seconds once it's thawed, and it'll be creamy. If you feel like you need to, just add a pat of butter and a splash of milk and stir it in. Oh my goodness. I always add a pat of butter to leftovers. Oh goodness. That is so, so good. And I promise you, who's going to know that there's cottage cheese in there?
Yeah, you don't taste it.
Nope. It just makes it creamy and rich. Delicious. Surprise ingredient. Thank you so much for watching our videos. We really do appreciate that you join us for these. If you've not already, we would appreciate you going right below the video and clicking that subscribe box and the little notification bell and the word all. And if you've already done that, thank you for doing it. Thank you so much. We also would appreciate it if you'd go right below this video and give us a thumbs up. That just says you liked our video. The more people who click that, the more times YouTube will share it. So that helps us get our channel out there. Remember that right under this video, where you see the title of this macaroni and cheese dish, if you'll click that title, that box will expand. Melissa will have our recipe for this macaroni and cheese right there in that box. So you don't have to write it down as we go. You can just get it right out of the box there. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming to watch our video. We hope you remember that you are always welcome to come sit at my table. Happy Thanksgiving from our table to your table.